Welcome to Pop Culture Retro, which was recently voted the 15th best podcast by the residents of Golden Years Retirement Community in Boca Raton, Florida. Each show will revisit some of your favorite pop culture memories with insider and outsider perspectives. Now, please help me welcome your hosts, Moosie Drier and Jonathan Rosen.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of Pop Culture Retro. I'm Jonathan Rosen, along with Moosie Drier, and today we are thrilled to welcome an Academy Award-nominated actress. She's worked with some of the most legendary directors of all time, including Martin Scorsese, Sidney Lumet, Ivan Reitman, and Harold Ramis. She's worked in films with people such as Robert De Niro, John Belushi, Billy Crystal, and Arnold Schwarzenegger. She also stars in the upcoming thriller Beyond the Rush. You can check out in my neck of the woods on Saturday, November 9th at the Fort Lauderdale Film Festival. And most importantly, she's a fellow native New Yorker. Please help us welcome Cathy Moriarty. Cathy, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Thank you, Cathy.
Well, we have a lot to cover, but let's start by going back with you. So you grew up in New York. Where around, and were you always interested in acting?
I was, yeah, since I was a little girl, like even 7 years old, I was like, oh, I love this. And I come from a very big family. So I used to cast all my brothers and sisters in a part and put on a production in our backyard. And then I don't even know how old I was, but young teenager, I don't even know if I was. I saw Born Yesterday with Judy Holliday.
Mm-hmm.
And that was that. I was going to be an actress and nothing else.
Judy Holliday's a great one to emulate.
Yeah. So opposite of me, but I just was enthralled with acting and production and characters and all that kind of good stuff. And so I started doing dinner theater when I was like 15 and applied for a grant to go to acting school. But back then, they didn't consider acting a profession. So they told me, why don't you be a nurse? And I said, I want to play a nurse. I don't want to be a nurse. And now probably I could be a nurse. I ended up playing a nurse twice. So there you go.
Right. So I was reviewing Raging Bull, not as if I haven't seen the film so many times in my life. I could not believe, so you were 18 years old when you did Raging? I
was 18 when I was 17 when I met them, 18 and 19 while we did the movie, and 20 when it came out.
Okay.
The big span of my life.
This is crazy because you have such an old soul, if you believe in that or whatever, but the layers, the maturity that you brought to Vicky LaMotta and Raging Bull was just phenomenal. Now, don't tell my son he's 18 years old. I'm like, what are you doing? Right. So, so what was that experience like? Getting cast in that film, and how'd that come about?
Oh man, it was really, it's so hard to explain it. Because I just, thank God I had no fear back then, because I certainly would have quit right away. I had no technical experience whatsoever. I mean, I thought you did a movie with like a handheld camera. And I met them in October and worked with them until February the next year. And I kept going back every day and kept going back. And I'd see all these amazing actresses leaving as I was coming in. Everybody was auditioning. I didn't even have a headshot. I didn't know what a union was. I was a kid who thought I knew everything and was all that in a bag of chips, and I was not. But I had discipline and determination. So I figured, they're not going to give me a grant to go to school. So great, I'll just use it. Whether I got the part or not, it was more the learning experience. And Scorsese, De Niro, and Pesci were above and beyond kind and patient with me. And I will always have my deepest gratitude to them for that. But, I just kind of stuck with it. And I was learning, and I liked learning. But if I had to do it today, I'd never get the part, and I would have quit long ago, But at 17, I had no fear. But I've always been told I had a bit of an old soul. And I do believe that. I was 17, 18, 19, and I was playing 15 to what, 35 or something.
Right.
I want to say that it took hours for them to age me, but it really didn't. But I don't know. I just kind of grew up as an adult. I was never really like a little kid.
Yeah.
Fine. I mean, that was my choice. I don't know. I just kept banging down that door, and I went and I sent my picture in, and I went and I auditioned and did all of those things. And Sis Corman, who believed in me, Kath, I want you to meet my friends. This is Marty and Bobby. And I was like, hey, how you doing? And this is, Martin Scorsese and Robert De Niro. And just, I don't know. I just kept going back. Then I did a screen test, which they said, we'd like you to screen test. Like I knew what that was. I did.
Mhm.
And I just figured I'd show up and we'd just read again the scenes, and they do it with a little handheld camera. It was a full-blown production down at Mother Soundstage.
Mm.
And it was like 5 o'clock in the morning. I was like, whoa, I don't know if I'm cut out for this. We get home at 4. But anyway, we did the screen test, and there was all these people. And I'm born in the 60s.
Mm.
So eyebrows and red lipstick and those kind of clothes. I was like, oh,
Mhm.
because the movie's the 40s. And then Scorsese looked at me, he goes, you ready? I was like, yeah. He never showed too much emotion. And then he was like, all right, ready, action. And he was like, what's wrong, Cathy? I said, well, I'm kind of waiting for everybody to leave. He goes, oh God. He goes, they're not leaving. I said, well, why didn't you just tell me that? And everything was okay after that.
Yeah.
Said they need 10 days to see if I had the part or not. And they called me like the very next day and said, you have the
Mm.
part. I didn't have time for it to kind of sink in
Yeah.
because we were supposed to shoot in New York. Then they changed it from that to, okay, everybody pack their bags. We're all going out to LA for 3 or 4 months. Ended up being like almost a year.
Yeah.
They stayed. So there you go.
There's a nice happy accident behind being raw and so young that you don't even know that you should be nervous. Like you
Yes.
said, if it
Yeah,
came today,
exactly. Wait, give me 1 sec. Hold on.
yeah.
Oh, we get a little light. That's too much. All right. And now I put it right into my own eyes. There you go. That's better. There is there's that innocence of,
Mhm.
and that's what they saw, because my difficult part of Raging Bull was learning the technical stuff, being able to stay where I would absorb everything, because
Mhm.
it wasn't like they were beating something into my head. They brought it out of me naturally, which only a really great director can do that.
Mhm.
Some of my favorite moments of my life were working with certain directors. Of course, Scorsese, we know all that. Ivan Reitman, just brilliant. But
Yeah.
Sidney Lumet said something to me one day. He goes, you were just born in the wrong era. You should have been born in the 40s and 50s. You're old Hollywood.
Hmm.
On just the storytelling, in just learning from these great icons in this industry. If I never made any movies in my life, that opportunity for them to share something with me, this little girl
Mhm.
from the Bronx, pretty amazing.
You
Pretty
just
amazing.
mentioned director. I mean, that's one of the things that I'm very curious about because, Scorsese is always listed as among the greatest directors
Oh,
ever. Yeah. So
yeah.
what was his style like with you?
He was kind. He was patient. And I think that they were so scared because they didn't know if I was an adult or like a kid. It wasn't like Taxi Driver with Jodie Foster. Here's a girl
Yeah.
with experience, but still has the capability of understanding. Um, so like how do you treat her? But also on Raging Bull was shot through somebody else's eyes. So once, and this was Scorsese that brought this out of me and explained it, where I had a comfort level. I was like, I really don't think she would say something like that. And then I understood why he never let me meet Vicky LaMotta. Because I was like, do I really have to say that? I don't think Vicky would have said that. He goes, no, she wouldn't have said that, Cathy. but this is what Jake perceived. And Raging Bull was Jake LaMotta, his vision of how he interpreted certain things that he saw it. And it's funny when you read the script, you're playing a character. This character is still alive. So I never got to meet her. When they brought her out to LA, they flew me back to New York. We had written each other letters. Nobody ever gave us each other's letters. Finally, after I finished the movie, I was in Florida and I was able to find her. And I reached out to her and we spent the weekend together. This is after I did the movie. We were best friends ever since. We ended up going on a tour of Europe together. But I understood, and it was the Copacabana scene. And when he explained that to me, I was like, why didn't you tell me that 3 months ago? But also the page. But then another thing, Mr. Martin Scorsese did for me, he storyboarded things like a comic strip. You know, when you storyboard. And he invited me into his little, we had our little campers, or they had big campers. I had a little shoebox. But anyway, then he said, Cathy, can you get Cathy? And sat me down and he showed me box by box, you know. And, you know, I'm going to shoot this and shoot that. He knew I had no camera experience, technical. This camera right, camera left thing is still messing me up. Just tell me left, right, you know. I still have to like look down and figure it out. But just the little kind steps they did without making me feel insecure where I really wasn't trained enough, that you can do this, Cathy, we'll explain it to you. But they took that time out. I mean, they had to have been like insane at that point, but they always took that time out to do that for me. And like if there was a problem on set, they didn't say anything. So I remember one day, it was a hard scene. This dog would not shut up the whole entire time. And when I came home, they saw I was kind of, you know, I didn't know if they were mad at me that I wasn't doing something correctly. It was business stuff. But when I came home, there was all yellow flowers everywhere, yellow roses. And I was like, it's not like an occasion, is it? You know? And they're like, you really did great today, Cathy. It was the damn dog, you know, the dog wouldn't stop barking. Finally, I think they have it in the movie. I don't even remember. I'll kill that dog, you know, something
Oh,
stupid.
funny. You know, you don't get that. That's very fortunate, you know, that they were cognizant enough to know that, hey, we need to let her know that this was not her. Like, you know, this
Yeah,
is,
but they
yeah.
knew that I didn't have the training, but they didn't want me to feel insecure about that because I was doing my job. And I remember I had to wait 29 days after we started filming because this was what, 1979? The union wanted to know, why didn't you hire somebody who's in the union already? And they waited till the very last day. So I was on eggshells for the first month saying, they're going to let me go. They're going to let me go. Anyway, Jim Brubaker, God bless him, he's passed away now. He was the captain of transportation back then. Then he became a big producer and just a wonderful, wonderful man. He said, kid, you got $500? I was like, no, you know, because they certainly weren't paying me that $500. But anyway, he goes, come on, I'm taking you up to the union. And he drove me up to the Screen Actors Guild that back then was on Sunset Boulevard.
Mhm.
And I became union that day.
Mhm.
So
Nice.
then it was like another 9 months. But, you know, they just were so kind and so caring sometimes, not all the times. It's like, didn't bother them to punch me in the head, you know. But they taught me an awful lot. And it was a very deep piece. You know, it wasn't about war, it was about, you know, somebody's mental state. So, because Jake was on set every day. And but Vicky, I didn't get to meet. So to play her, then once I understood, and Robert De Niro used to you know, he'd take me for lunch, coffee, whatever, and we'd go through all the scrapbooks and stuff. So I get the feel and the look in her mannerisms. And I remember looking back, he didn't have time for that, but he took the time out and did that for me. And it gave me such a great sense that knowing I wasn't born then. You have to remember, I'm 18 years old. These guys are late 30s, 40s. in, they throw this little girl in, move her to another state, in with these 40-year-old Italian guys from New York. But it worked.
Shut up. Just shut up.
Both
Keep
of
your
you
mouth
say,
shut.
that I feel like I'm a prisoner. I can't walk. I look at somebody the wrong way, I get smacked.
You think you're right or something the way you're fucking yelling?
Yeah,
You're
I
wrong.
am right.
No, you're wrong.
Look, I am right. I'm tired of having to turn around and having both of you up my ass all the time.
Shut up.
No.
Don't make me.
Look, I'm tired of listening to you
Don't make
and
me
your
get
brother.
nuts
I'm
in
not
this
wrong.
place.
And what am I supposed to do? When 20 years old, I gotta go home and sleep by myself every night?
What the fuck did you marry?
Because
him
I
for?
love her.
You do?
Yeah, I love him. What am I supposed to do?
Thank
So we have Brubaker to thank and Scorsese to thank, but yeah.
And De Niro and Joe
And
Pesci.
De
Joe
Niro.
Pesci's the one that said you should send your picture in. Joe Pesci, I think, was working. Yeah, well, I don't think. I know he was working at a restaurant. He was running this restaurant in the Bronx. That's really how we met. They were looking at a tape of this movie called Death Collector. They were looking at the lead actor in it, and they saw Joe Pesci in it because Joe Pesci, I think, had basically kind of retired, said, "I'm not going to act." And they found him then, and between the two of us, but it I just have such cherished memories. I got some bad ones too, don't get me wrong.
Sure.
But mostly the memories I have, I'll cherish for forever and ever. It's something that nobody else is ever gonna have that I have.
No one can ever take that away.
No,
Yeah.
no.
I was reading that also that Sharon Stone and Debbie Harry auditioned for your part. Is that true? And did you see anyone else? Do you know who else auditioned for your part?
Yes, I do. We laugh about that.
I love it.
Yeah, I know a lot of the people, and I'm friends with them today. I mean,
Oh,
it's
cool.
something that's been
That's
said
just how it
before.
goes.
Beverly D'Angelo was supposed to screen test, and I screen tested first. She was supposed to come that afternoon, and they said, no, we found, she's the one that told me the story. So I know she was screen testing, and we're still friends to this day. So there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, there was a lot of people that tried out for that role.
Yeah, I'm sure. I didn't realize this until now, or think about this till now. So Peter Bogdanovich, Scorsese, like Bogdanovich, Paper Moon in black and white, and Martin Scorsese started shooting a film or two in black and white. This is a time when the distributors and the studios were like, "Hey, we're advertising now. We're in Technicolor and all that stuff,"
Right,
and they're
yeah.
like, "No, we're doing it on. I'm doing this on my terms." And so, do you remember? Wait, this is in black and white. Was that a thing where because everything was out in color at that point?
Yeah, everything was, oh, give me a Norman now, sorry.
Oh,
Hey there.
That's
Hello.
Norman. We got a couple
Hello.
more.
Oh,
This is Norm, and we
hi,
have
Norm.
oh no.
we have a new baby, Winston.
Oh, nice.
He's like 3 or 4 weeks old. I'll show you him after. He's so cute, and Lana's over there just watching, saying, "Who's she talking to?" But on that's it. A good question. So black and white color. So it was kind of Norm, when you think of New York, do you think Technicolor or do you think kind of black and white, gray, brown, tone? Except in the fall, really, there's not vibrant color in New York. So they were trying to sell that pitch.
Yeah.
But basically, I think they shot in black and white because it was a lot cheaper. And if you notice, when they went to the home movies, those were shot in color.
Yes.
They took a hanger. This is what I was told. I didn't physically see it. They took a hanger to the negative and scratched it to make it look gritty. That's the only color that's in Raging Bull.
Right.
But I'd go with, you think of New York in the winter, it's very gray, black, white, sepia tone. Really, I think it's because it was much cheaper to shoot in black and white.
Interesting, but it just worked,
Well, yeah, because
Yeah.
New York is black and white, the 40s, the 50s. You go back to that magical era. And yeah, unless you're going to see the leaves change. That's what New York City is, the grit, the Bronx.
Yeah.
Bronx, there's
Yeah.
there's no color. No. Color didn't belong there. That's what makes it New York.
Yeah.
You know, blue
Do you
and
get to,
everything, still gray.
right. So did you I think you sort of tapped in on this too, maybe about the dog barking on the set, but do you improvise a lot? Did he have you guys improvise a lot?
We did, and that was the little magical secret that they all taught me. They taught me how to listen because you can memorize the script. I had everybody's lines memorized.
Mm-hmm.
I can't even find a script because I don't even think I had one. They taught me how to listen, and when I listened, but what they taught me was if you can become the character, bring something to life, and learn to listen, you can respond to any situation.
Right.
Like let me see, like the pool scene, the car scene, when he comes up, and I know he was stealing it off of, I think, On the Waterfront with Marlon Brando, where I had my fingers in the fence, and it was like, oh, I said, nice car. Everybody asked me to say that line. I just made it up because I learned how to listen and respond. So everything was so kind of natural. So I guess in my own way, I was creating the character of Vicky and just kind of went with it. And they kept me very secluded. So really, I only hung out with them. You
Yeah.
know, I'd see my family, every now and then. But mostly I just kind of stayed very secluded with them and became that character and learned
Yeah.
to listen. And if you can kind of do that, man, that's you're home free.
What a great blessing, what a great gift of them
Yes,
to
yeah, it
allow
wasn't.
you to and to teach you and show you that you have the license to improvise. You stay in character and you listen.
They
You're not
trust
going, your character's not going anywhere. The story's not going to stray.
the story's not going to stray because they're not going to allow it.
Yeah.
So they trusted me because I trusted them.
This
And
is beautiful.
finally, because that's a hard barrier and a wall to break down, to trust somebody that you don't know, that has never been in your life before. Now you're going
Right.
to spend 2.5 years with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I did. I finally let my guard down and listened and trusted them. And I had to grow up quick, didn't I? You
Sure
know,
did.
and
Oh,
it
so
was
that leads me to this. So Cathy, this happens to pretty much every actor I can think of. You did your first film and you were nominated for an Oscar.
yeah.
Wow.
And what did I do?
How did, can you want to share a little? Were you shocked? Were you nervous? Did you brush it off? And was it, what?
It took a year from when we finished, and everybody vanishes and everybody goes on to the
Mhm.
next step in their life. So now I have to go in to do ADR, to do sound.
Mm.
So this is almost a year later, right? And I'm listening and I'm looking. I know it's me. It was like, so I don't know what this ADR thing is. Um, so I was like, well, what do I have to do? And Scorsese's explaining it to me. I was like, well, that's not my voice. Yeah, that's your voice. I said, oh no, I am not going to sound like that. Because I sounded like a truck driver. And that is what I sounded like. Being nominated, now that's the whirlwind, right? Now it's a year later. I forgot about everything. Now the movie's going to come out. There was no premiere. There was none of that. They ended up doing a big one for the 25th anniversary. Literally, Scorsese was still walking down the street. This is his words, with the cans. Back then, it was the cans in your hand with the film for the night of the screening. And I was a nervous wreck. And I had waitress all day, got off early, came home, um, threw on my best and only shoes in a really hideous dress, I remember. Definitely not something I picked out. And back then, I would imagine I didn't know that there was hair and makeup and all that stuff. Went to go see the movie, and Vicky was there, and but I had met her now finally. And as long as I had done her justice, I was so scared that she would be upset with me of the portrayal, but she understood that it was through Jake's eyes. She goes, I was there, Cathy, when it happened. Everything he thought I was doing, and so she understood the whole vision behind it. But I remember my dad came, and I just was like a mess, right? My whole family had come. And I went to the bathroom, and was standing next to my father. And then we realized that we're both standing in the ladies' bathroom. I was like, what are you doing in here, Dad? Because he was so nervous. And then after they had like a little party, and then the car came to pick me up to start press the next day. Then I went back to California again. And I remember the nominations came out. I didn't understand, and I think maybe good in a way, but I was very foolish and stupid and wouldn't take advice. And so great, I got nominated. The nominations come out at what, like 6 in the morning. Yeah, I took the next flight to Europe and left for 6 weeks instead of staying and doing, the press and all that stuff. I ran because that's what I do.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah.
Wow. What a story.
But
I
then
mean,
now I'm in Europe, so I want to go to Italy, and they're like, no, you can't. So what do you mean I can't? You just made me work and go to all these.
mhm.
You have to come back for the Oscars. I was like, oh no, I don't. They're like, yeah, you do. I was like, oh God. So anyway, still waiting on that Italy trip. Never
I-
made it.
Hopefully you
Wow.
will.
Yeah.
I would like to move on to Neighbors. It's a
Mm,
movie I really enjoyed and have seen it many times. So you starred with Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi, directed by Don Avildsen. It was your second film. It's such a big departure from Raging Bull. So how did you come into that movie?
That was the whole point. Because now all this time has gone. I didn't have an agent. Nobody wanted me. Nobody would see me until Raging Bull really came out. And I hung with the fun crew. I really did. And I was a little bit ahead of my years, I guess we'll say. But when they approached me to do Neighbors, um, I wanted to do something because I had no experience. I really didn't have training. I didn't have any of the things that you were supposed to have. I guess I could have lied and put them down, which I did many times, but I wanted to show that I can do other things. And they gave me that opportunity. And I actually really didn't want to do Neighbors, but I love John and Dan so much. And then really fell in love with John Avildsen. I actually just worked with John's son, which was so strange. I mean, I think he was like 13 or something. And I would go to John Avildsen's house, Belushi and Aykroyd and myself, and we'd rehearse a little bit. And it took me a while to sign on to do that. But I was like, I have to. What I should have done after Raging Bull was go back to school and learn and do all that. But I couldn't. Financially, I couldn't. Um, and then when the opportunities arose, I was too young and too stupid to know I was being handed a gift. So I had to learn the hard way. But working with John and Dan, now back then they were playing the parts they were originally supposed to play.
yeah.
And then like 2 weeks before they switched parts, and I was like, what the fuck are you guys? Oh, sorry.
No,
What are
you
you
could
guys
you could
doing
throw
with it?
the upward.
Well, why would we do that now? Anyway, we did. To be able to learn from two masters from two different spectrums of the universe. John was down. Oh my God, they're brilliance. They're absolute brilliance. And of course, now it's the 80s.
Yeah.
We were a little wild, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
it's not my favorite movie. I know it's very culty. Either you love it or you hate it.
mhm. Well,
There's
I was going to ask you
still
actually,
on the
you answer
fence.
the question, answer the question about I was going to see what if you were on board before or after they had decided to switch characters, switch roles,
I
which is
was on
crazy.
board before, but it took me a while to get on board.
Yeah.
And I said, "You're going to do what?" I don't know,
And there
And
are stories about their behavior shooting that, primarily Belushi, but did that affect you in any ways, or was there anything that really stood out in your mind from that experience that
oh, that we really got to get our shit together, kind of.
yeah.
No, they would just, they were like De Niro and Pesci to me. They
Yeah.
shared everything. They were kind. We would troll the streets of New York. I would go to their little special place. They used to have like this underground club in the city. They'd get up, sing, and they made me part of their family. And I will
That's
be
great.
forever grateful. The love of music, um, just rock and roll,
Hmm.
It
Hmm.
was what, 1981, 82? I mean, I was the last
Yeah.
person to work with John Belushi.
Yeah.
Wow.
Um,
There were so many stories that they try to get Avildsen thrown off the picture. Did you see any of that?
no,
No.
no, and if I did, I wouldn't tell you anyway.
Oh,
But
Yeah. And on top of all
no, I
that,
didn't. I really didn't see any of that. No, I just, I did my job. I went home. But before I would like sign on, I never forget. They'd bring me roast beef sandwiches on rye bread, lettuce, tomato, salt, and pepper, and a little bit of mayonnaise. And just they just were funny, but they were just so kind, and they always made me feel at ease. But watching they taught me John's physical comedy too,
mm,
and
uh,
dance. He's so brilliant.
oh,
He's
gosh.
just so smart. And he would take the time out, just little things. And he'd say, "Tell me a story, Kathy, because I'm kind of animated." And he would listen to me forever and ever. And just his kindness. And when we lost John, oh, that,
Mm,
yeah,
it was several months after the film, right? After you finished shooting.
yeah, yeah.
I
Yeah.
remember he was the Elvis of comedy.
Yeah.
Like just,
Oh, yeah.
and sadly,
They bring
also
me down.
mirrored.
They brought me down to Saturday Night Live, where who would have thought that, at 19, 20 years old, did I actually think I'd be sitting in the room of Saturday Night Live and,
Mhm.
hanging out with everybody? No, I did not think
Mm.
that. But they brought me into their home. John's wife, it's magical. Yeah, it just,
Yeah.
I learned a lot. I did make sure I learned, and I endured a lot. And, sometimes on set, I guess maybe it got a little dangerous, but,
Mhm.
at least half the people liked the movie, and the other
Well,
half,
you could put me into loving the movie category.
oh, thank you. Thank you. I
So
appreciate
you
it.
did, so there's your comedy, and then obviously
Yeah.
Raging Bull, and you did so many films. I mean,
Yeah.
I was looking, I'm obviously very familiar with you, but then when you look at somebody's IMDb, you remember like, oh my gosh, like you did so many diverse roles in different films. Do you have a favorite role? Like favorite in terms of, I don't know how you want to say favorite, the most fun to play or
I have favorites, and I always separate them. I've done a lot, and I don't talk a
mm,
lot. My whole thing is about the acting, but there are certain projects I've done. I always take something away, but then I always have a great experience, and I have a story for everything
mhm. Yeah.
I've ever done, and most of them are very positive. But yeah, you'd like Raging Bull, oof, Neighbors, complete, different. Then
Yeah.
did this independent movie called White of the Eye. Oh God, it was grueling. With this director Donald Cammell, he's dead now too. Jesus, is anybody either there in jail or dead? Really, it's kind
Yeah.
of crazy. But he was an odd bird. I mean, he ended up like blowing his brains out and stuff.
Mm.
But I had met them actually through like Marlon Brando, who I had met before, and this director's wife, Gina Cammell, was Marlon Brando's goddaughter, I think.
Hmm.
Anyway, just like movies like that, but then Soap Dish,
Hmm.
or even I'm going to go back before that. I had gotten in a terrible accident and I couldn't work for years. And then coming back, I was going to do Two Jakes, which was the sequel to Chinatown.
Mm.
Hmm.
And it was Kelly McGillis and myself. And it was a long channel of events in order to finally get that part. Because you would have thought they're going to cast me to play the Faye Dunaway kind of carry-on part, right? Because I look like her. So I
Hmm.
thought, I definitely have a shot at this. And I was so joyful and grateful that they cast me as an actress to play a complete different part. Anyway, you lose the 30 pounds, you cut your hair, you dye it platinum, you go to work, you're working with Jack Nicholson and all these amazing people.
Hmm.
And then on the second day, Kelly and I went to work, and there were padlocks everywhere. But if three Paramount, I think it was the Mancuso brothers back then, had said, if three grown men can't keep it together, we'll show you that the studio is still in charge. And they shut the movie down.
Oh, wow.
Years later, they redid it. I heard it was like one of the worst movies ever. Didn't fend well at all. But I just remember that they didn't ask us when they did it again. They didn't ask her and they didn't ask Guy. They kept all the guys and brought in new girls. But so I was doing that, and then it just got canceled. Everybody just go home. So when you put your life into all these other people's hands and they can tell you what's going to happen with your future, sometimes that's not good. And that's when I kind of woke up. That was my first thing coming back. I had broken my back, and so it was just a bad car accident and a bad couple of years. But then Ivan Reitman asked me to do just a very small little part in Kindergarten Cop. It's kind of like, like the diversion role.
Fun movie.
Just wanted to work with him. But Soap Dish would be one of my favorites. You have Raging Bull, I take something out of every movie. Soap Dish, I auditioned. I was still in bed crying because I didn't get the part. And they called me, and I was having a really good pity party. And they called me, they said, a car is going to be there for you in 40 minutes. Get in it. Who they had cast originally had pulled out, and they were starting to shoot. And they said, get on the plane. You're going to go to New York. It's between you and another actress. And I was like, geez, this is starting to become work. I'm not like thrilled.
Yeah.
Anyway, I ended up getting that part. And I was playing Nurse Nan. I was playing Montana Moorhead. I was playing Milton Moorhead, all in one movie. And it was last minute. And we all have bucket lists, or we should have a bucket list. To go into one movie working with Sally Field, who, is a god to me. Kevin Kline, Whoopi Goldberg, Carrie Fisher, Robert Downey Jr., who I worked with numerous times.
Well, those are all
Terry Hatcher, just all of these icons in this industry.
Harry Marshall.
During a difficult time, too.
Yeah. Those are all my favorite people, not even just as far as their talent, but just who they are. Like the Gary Marshalls, the Robert Downey Jr., the Sally Fields, just people you just can't help but really like or love if you know them, I'm sure. But wow.
Yeah.
How about matinees? So you worked with John Goodman.
I did. I got to work with John.
And Joe Dante, I think, directed that.
Joe Dante and Mike Fennell, they were wonderful. I love Joe. I haven't seen him for a long time now.
Yeah.
I haven't. And then Casper came, and that was iconic. But matinee was wonderful. It was wonderful, and I thought it was actually a really great story. Once again, I showed them I could play a nurse. No, because when they're like, just why don't you be a nurse? I said, no, I want to play a nurse. So there's a little private mission of mine. But John Goodman, brilliant. I mean, obviously, but back then he was known more for a Rosanna set, but the talent that he had in those children. But I loved the story and how Joe Dante brought it to life, with the bee story. It just was iconic. And working with young actors, with kids, where I was still a kid, to me anyway. But now you have all these new generations, and I realized I actually kind of had a talent, like even on Kindergarten Cop. I loved working with children. A lot of people don't like it, but yeah, John was great. We spent a lot of time in Florida sweating, and so I remember them closing down a bridge, and it had to be 110 degrees. We were dying. We were like, we got to get this right so we could just go home. But
Well, you mentioned working with kids, and you just glossed over Casper. Casper was such a fun family film.
Oh my God.
And it was like one of the first ones to really use CGI. There was so much CGI in that one. How was that with working with like that? Because it wasn't known.
Well, it worked with Spielberg. Excuse me. Okay. Right. I've got to go now. I had met with Casper. When I found out I got Casper, I had met the director and stuff, and then they replaced the director and brought in Brad Sibling, thank goodness, because he just was a joy. Him and his wife, he was married to Amy Sibberling. It just, Amy Brenneman, sorry, and then she changed her last name to Sibberling when she got married. But so much fun. Christina Ricci, who'd spend weekends at my house, go down to Mulberry Street and work, you know. It's just so great. Bill Pullman, but to work with Eric Idle, man, I shouldn't have gotten paid for that, really. I should have done that for free. The laughter, the weakness, you know.
Yeah.
And it took forever. But no, you had Spielberg coming off of Jurassic Park, which was really only 6 minutes of CGI.
Right.
Now I get into the technical thing where, ooh, look at me, I'm fancy, I'm learning.
Yeah.
Where Casper had over, I think, 60 minutes of special effects CGI and acting to nothing all day long. All right, Cathy, Casper's going to be over there. Eric Idle, you know, scream now. And then to play a ghost in real life and learn that whole genre of this industry, which I love. So then I started doing, you know, a lot of animation and cartoons and stuff and using my voice, which I made fun of for years. And now I'm going to the bank today, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was good. And then I really loved the fact there's no hair involved. There's no makeup involved. I can go to work before I go to work and just lay down some tracks. And it was funny because my parents only came out to California once in like the 30-something years I was there. And I was working on a movie with this wonderful director, Sean McNamara. It wasn't Casper Meets Wendy. It was another movie I did with him. But I was doing Hey Arnold at the same time. And my dad came to work with me, my mom and my dad. And it was Jim Belushi played Coach Arnold and I played Mrs. Coach. And my father looked at me, he goes, this is a job? Like you get paid for this? You're talking to him like 30 minutes. Let's have lunch. And my father thought that was the greatest thing in the world, you know?
Yeah.
So I started learning more and more.
Yeah.
And you know, it was great. But yeah.
Sometimes you work your ass off, excuse the expression. Other times you feel like you're stealing money, but it all, you know, levels out.
You know what? If you make a nice mix of that cake turns out good.
Yeah. So you mentioned Mulberry, excuse me, Mulberry Street Pizza.
I no longer own Mulberry.
Oh, you don't?
You no longer do. Okay, but you helped found it. You founded it.
Oh yeah, 30-something years
it.
we have now. Yeah, I'm part of it. Yeah. Yeah, but it's
Fantastic.
3 years. But my partner, I couldn't because I came back to New York. I had these 3 beautiful, wonderful children, and you know, so I just couldn't get out there anymore, and that wasn't fair. But yes, I will always be part of it, and I founded it. There was 5 of them, and
Canaan Drive and Beverly.
Original. Then there was Beverly Drive, Ventura Boulevard, Encino, and then the one in Sherman Oaks. And then Richie went off, and he opened one in Vegas. But that one I don't have anything to do with that.
Listen, when I first in the 90s, I first got introduced to Mulberry Street. I had no idea, by the way, until just recently that you had anything to do with it.
Oh yeah.
I discovered Mulberry Street Pizza and just
flipped.
And I had an ongoing poker game. You know, I'm like, hey, you guys check, you know, and then it became a thing.
It's a good slice of pizza. And it's a
great
little place. And, you know, that was our goal because we had opened up this place called Manhattan West first on La Cienega. It was the old Lobster or something.
Yeah.
And we didn't make it. We just didn't.
That's a tough strip.
So we had 3 days. So, and it was, you know, the linens, the white tablecloth, the piano, that whole thing. It was good. But it wasn't enough. And in LA, it's so completely different than New York. I remember the first time going out in LA, we go out at midnight in New York. And I walked in, they're like, last call. I was like, what's wrong with you people, you know? But anyway, so we opened up we had 3 days and we brought Lyle Alzado in as like a little partner kind of thing.
Yeah.
And in 2 days, turned it into a rock and roll sports bar called Alzado's.
Yes.
And you can get in the place for years. But everything in LA has like a 2 or 3 year run. And I was good with business, finally. And I had a brain and I loved that. And I knew that stuck.
That was on La Cienega and Willoughby, Alzado's. I lived right behind it on Alfred, like a block away. Wow.
fire department gave me a hard time, but whatever.
It's a tough
Had it fun, and then I
strip of
think
restaurants.
Roxbury opened. Yeah,
When you said it was a lobster place, is that the place in the 70s where Alan Hale from Gilligan's Island?
that's it. I couldn't think of his name. Yes, it was
Yeah.
his. And we had a great little run,
Mhm.
and then it was time to go because once it was just time to go. It was time to go. We were the Thursday night, and then Roxbury opened. So everybody wanted, Thursday night was singles night. Friday night was whatever night, fun night. Saturday night, I guess, was kind of date night. So don't let her know when I come in for dinner that I was here on Thursday. And it was some mixed mash of people. But man, we worked hard and threw down. So then after that, that's when I opened up Mulberry Street then.
Yeah.
Because after Alzato's closed, I was so sick and tired of everybody coming and living at my house. I was like, all right. And then my partner, Richie Palmer, and so it's like he had pizzerias in New York also. He goes, can we do that? I was like, well, we have to do something before I'm going to go to jail. I'm going to start killing people. But so we opened up the first one, and on Cannon Drive, it was an old Western Union, and a little tiny spot. And by the grace of God, we got a lease. They liked me and they believed in me, and we turned that little sucker in. And I didn't have $10 left. I had to wash the floor myself. And we opened, and it's 33 years. It was, I think, September something. 33 years. So, and I'm very
tough business, restaurant business. Yeah.
Really, really proud of it. And yeah, it's great. And it's a good slice, and I can stand behind my product.
Yeah, and I hope you have a big refrigerator if you go there, because the box, you can land a single engine Cessna on the large pizza box.
Listen, individual pizzas are not for me. It took me forever to do the ham pineapple, maybe 30 years. I think we got rid of it again anyway.
Right.
Homemade cakes, whatever I felt like making, whatever I knew how to make. Because when we had Manhattan West, it was like, wait a minute, why are we out of stock and blah, blah, whatever. And then finally we went up on the roof and I caught the chef. There was 3 of us. We caught the chef throwing all the blocks of shrimp into the garbage. He was stealing. But you don't fire the chef until after the shift. So that's when I became the cook. But I became the cook. I knew how to cook. No, from Scorsese's mother taught me how to cook. One of the people. And so I knew how to cook, and I ended up. And then from that is Mulberry Street. And I'm done on that.
They got to bring you on the bear. You know the business.
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, by hard knocks, I know it. By hard knocks.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think I'm hoping, Jonathan, I'll ask you about this film you have coming out. But just real lastly, I want to say, since we're talking about non-show businessy thing and pizzas and stuff, I did notice that you are involved in Autism Speaks. I've been to many fundraisers here in LA. I have not seen you there, but if I ever see you at one of these fundraisers for this beautiful organization, I'm coming up with my blue little puzzle piece pen, and I'm going to say hello.
Good. Yeah. Thank you.
Great organization. Yeah.
Everybody is a human being. We're all in different walks of our life. And sometimes you just need someone to listen and understand and care. And care.
Absolutely.
And that's really what it comes down to. And, some great parenting. But, it's not like a refrigerator that's broken that you can return it and get a new one. Okay? Sometimes you have your favorite pair of shoes, and they're lifelong. That's how it goes. But it's a really amazing journey. Because I understand them, and I put the work in, and I believe in them. And even my kids they're just like very dedicated to children. I mean, my kids at 10 and 11 were coaching the Challenger League and, the Special Olympics and all that stuff. And it's good for everybody.
Yeah.
It's good for everybody. You want to smile, go to something like that. Yeah. You will smile.
Yeah.
Well, do want to ask about now your new film coming out, Beyond the Rush, which you co-star with Eric Roberts. So what can you tell us about that film?
This is a film that was brought to me by a dear friend of mine. Um, and that's how I met Rob Saya, who I love and adore. And they said, "Will you read the script? Will you read the script?" I was like, "Oh, fine. I'll read the script." And I loved it. But I read scripts every day, and this one kind of caught me. The issues where you put them all into one vision of mental illness, substance abuse, sexual abuse, addiction, all these things. But when you go through, like, the kids in the movie, I just saw it on the big screen for the first time last Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
I was at the Chelsea Film Festival, and it ended up winning the Audience Award, which
Oh,
I had to
nice.
Google what it was, but it's a wonderful thing. I don't know these things. I'm not that in tune, but really gripping and captured my heart and soul. So I became attached to it. And then Eric signed on, but John Savage was signed on actually before me. Now, John and I and Eric, they're a bit older than me, but I started out really young. So we all kind of hung that circuit way back in the, 70s and 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And are you in New York or you're an LA boy?
Me,
I'm
in
from New
LA.
York. Moosie's
I'm-
LA. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're in LA. So
Yeah.
way back in the day, we all hung out at Cafe Central,
Mhm.
by Columbus Circle and stuff. And this is where we all gathered. And now, 45 years later, believe it or not, because I didn't realize I've been doing this for that long. And then I
Hmm.
realized April 9th, I had signed, whatever, April, I became a SAG union member,
Mhm.
1979. That's like
Hmm.
45 years ago, it's a really long time. And to work with Eric, and I've worked with him before, and he's Eric. He's in this particular movie. I think it's some of his best work. John
Yeah.
Savage can't ever do anything wrong to me.
Right.
Mia Suvari, just magical. The kids that were cast in this are just brilliant. Now you have them at a very young age, 7 and 9 or 6 and 9. Then you have them as teenagers. They were great. And then Eric and John, they all played them as adults. I just played the grandma who ends up taking care of these kids. But
Mhm.
I think what Rob did with his writing, and it's his first time directing, and he trusted us. He was wearing way too many hats, and he had his plate full. Shoestring budget, but he got it done, and I got to give him all the credit in the world. He really did, and boy, his persistence. He is persistent, but I understand now his vision. This was his life that he started way back. I don't even know what year when he was in high school, he did a short, he wrote it then and carried it on through his in adulthood. But it's a treasure. It's a nice little piece with a really good message. And it's dark at some points, but the message I'm hoping people will get out of it is really the ending after enduring all of these obstacles and challenges in life. Really just hoping people get that out of it. And I think it's a movie that should be seen. It has a
That's
beautiful
nice. That's
yeah.
and just I look forward to that and to say that and maybe one of Eric Roberts' best pieces of work is saying a lot because he's I've always loved Eric Roberts and his wife. I don't Eliza.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not love him, but everything that he carries through in this movie in such a classy
Mhm.
characters away. A lot of that was his idea that he brought to the plate. Like, how are we going to
Mhm.
shoot this? How are we going to do that? And he's just masterful. He really is. He's masterful.
Fantastic.
Watching
Fantastic.
Nina Savari, I was not aware of her immense talent.
Yeah.
And Bill Barrett, who plays the lead as an adult, man, now he doesn't have huge experience.
Hmm.
And I think it was a lot. I said, somebody believed in me a really long time ago.
Hmm.
Everybody deserves a chance. It's what you do with that chance now. And boy, did he step up to the plate and break that character down in a million pieces. Amanda Clayton, who played my daughter-in-law in something else. Now I guess she plays my granddaughter-in-law.
Hmm.
Perfection. Just, and the little kids, Wyatt and Peter. Oh my God. They were just amazing.
I'm
And
impressed by young actors
So
Especially her. She's killing it.
Mini
Sorry, what's
Subaru.
her? Yeah,
Mina Sabari, yeah.
yeah. And so many, there's like Euphoria and all these shows. Like when I was a kid, you and I are similar in age. When we were kids, it was like, there was Jodie Foster, Taxi, whatever. There were some exceptions, but like it's a different, and you just have to tip your
Oh,
hat. It's just
yeah.
pretty impressive, pretty crazy.
Absolutely. I've
Mhm.
never played a child. I've
Hmm.
always played an adult. So
But you like working with children.
I like kids. I like kids better
Yeah,
than
good to you.
kids.
And you love pets. I almost feel
I
like
do.
you're a good
I'm an
person.
animal lover, yeah.
You're a good person. You're a pet lover. These are the things that I check off on my box when
Yeah,
I decide I meet somebody. If you love
I love my
if you
kids.
don't if
I
you
love my
don't if you don't love dogs or
and I'm
cats
a
or just
foodie.
animals, I just don't trust people who
Wait,
don't.
I gotta show you Winston.
Okay.
of course.
I gotta go get him.
I love it. It's funny, Jonathan. Normally, my dogs are always all,
Yes.
today I have them put away, but I'll spare her of
Good. I love
who
when
do we
we
got
get the
here?
dogs on. Yes.
This is Winston.
Oh,
Is
oh,
he?
so cute.
He's just a newborn. Is he not
Goodness, look at that face.
a
So cute.
lovely dog?
Tiny little, yeah.
He's loaded with puppy breath.
Mhm,
Does Grandma love you? Oh,
yeah.
Lana, the mother, will be over in a minute.
Uh-oh.
She's a Frenchie.
Uh-huh.
She hasn't jumped on me yet.
Yeah.
Is he not? Oh,
Yes.
He's
such a
adorable.
miracle.
Yeah.
My
Oh,
dog's around
Very
90
much-
pounds, so
Very
they're
much unexpected.
wow.
Yeah. So
Well,
that's
hey, listen, Kathy, Jonathan, you want to ask her what I think
well, yeah.
what are you working on next?
Yeah, what are you working on next?
next. Well, we're doing Beyond the Rush, hoping to make the Fort Lauderdale Film Festival, but I have to leave for LA for a couple of months. I am doing a one-woman show called I'll Eat You Last, based on Sue Mengers, who happened to have been one of my first agents.
Well,
And into her house for all these wonderful Hollywood stories. I'll be doing that at the Bent Theater in Palm Springs.
Oh, wow.
So I'll be leaving in a couple of weeks to go down and do that. And I also have Saint Nick of Bethlehem. It's a little Christmas movie with Danny Roebuck and a bunch of great people. That is, I think they're announcing tomorrow, being released sometime in November. And I play Santa Claus's mom.
oh, very nice.
How great is
And
that?
then Beyond the Rush, I try and get as much done on that before I take off to go back to theater, believe it or not, and do this play with the Steve Rosenbaum and Terry Ray. And I'm actually very excited. I'm looking forward to it, and hope to God my memory holds up, since there's no room for cheat sheets or anything. So I got to get this 92 minutes down of just listening.
Well,
But
break a leg in Palm Springs. That sounds interesting.
Well,
I'll eat you last. That sounds great.
I do hope you get out to the Fort Lauderdale Festival. It's like 20 minutes from me.
Are you,
so
you're down there, Jonathan?
I'm
You're
like
there?
I'm like you said, I'm around 20, 25 minutes from there. So I'm going to
Are
go
you
there and I'm
coming?
going to look for you.
When am I supposed to be there exactly?
November 9th is when your film is.
Oh, okay, thanks.
And this is how you find out your schedule on when you're on the podcast. I love it.
Yeah, yes, that. No, I know it's Veterans Day weekend and I really want to go, but with Beyond the Rush and then doing the play, Saint Nick and my poor Winston and Lana,
Oh, Winston.
Norman, and my 3 kids.
Yeah.
I
They're
hope
not
you make it.
all adults, but
Right.
I'm going to try and squeeze in for a day.
Yeah.
Well, Kathy, we want to thank you again for
November-
coming on. We're big
And
fans of
November
yours.
9th.
Yes.
November 9th. Okay, got it.
Like you
But
said,
no, thank you guys.
we're big fans and thank you for taking the time. You're welcome anytime you want to come on. We'd love to have you.
Thank you.
Honored. Thank you, Kathy.
God bless, guys.
You're
Bye-bye.
lovely.
Well, this has
Bye-bye.
been Pop Culture Retro. I'm Jonathan Rosen with Moosie Drier. And again, a very special thanks to Cathy Moriarty. And please like, comment, and subscribe. Kathy, thank you again.
That was great.
And thank you,
Thank
guys.
you.
We're absolutely delightful and kind, and I appreciate that.
Thank you for tuning in to Pop Culture Retro, where no one was hurt during the making of this podcast. listening to this podcast just makes you really cool.